the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Start off with round one of citizen concerns. Anything not on the agenda to be heard by citizens? All right, moving on to item 2, approval of agenda. I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Taylor. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Moving on to the consent agenda. Items 3 through 7 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 3, approval of the minutes of the October 15th, 2019 meeting. Item 4, approval of claims. Item 5A from Board Administration, approval of lifting tax suspension for BP. And 5B, approval of lifting tax suspension for CT. Item 6 from Board Administration, approval of notice of property sale resolution for parcel also known as 1904 West 4th Street for Tuesday, November 5th at 4:35 p.m. Item 7 from Human Resources, A, approval of memorandum of personnel transactions, and B, authorization to initiate hiring process. That ends the consent agenda. I will move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Taylor. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Moving on to item 8, County Sheriff's Department. Discussion and action on creating new sergeant position in the jail.
True.
I know. I saw Dave.
He's indisposed at the moment. As you know, a few weeks, Tony Wanger from the Sheriff's Office. As you know, a few weeks ago, I came in front of you guys asking to create a new sergeant's position in conjunction with the help and aid of Rolling Hills, our new mental health region. We left it to get their approval first before we came back and took action for the board. Yesterday, they had their governance board meeting, went in front of them, and they did agree to fund $6,000 of the funds that would take to promote one person to that sergeant's position. By my tally, that would be $5,648. Then that Woodbury would be on the hook to complete that. I don't know if you need me to rehash what my plan was, or.
Good.
I just reiterate that Rolling Hills was supportive and make a couple of different points. One is that the previous jail alternative coordinator salary was approximately $35,000 a year. So in comparison to that, this is a total of $11,600 roughly, of which half would be covered by the other 7 counties in coordination with us. So I think it's very supportable, and I think there's demonstrable evidence that the current position is fulfilling that need very well.
Yes, I'm very happy with Dennis is doing. It's cutting me short and back inside the jail.
But didn't you say that you weren't looking to backfill that?
No, I won't be backfilling. I'm going to take a correctional officer I have right now and promote him to sergeant. I'm not asking for a body to fill that correctional officer. Just Dennis is going to move outside of the jail into the administration, and one of my current squad leaders on risk, I'm going to promote him to sergeant, and that'll be the end of that. You guys gave me a body July 1, an extra body. That's what I'm going to call for that right there.
Was what Rolling Hills approved, Mr. Taylor, was that ongoing or just for this year?
I think that it may be ongoing. It's just for this year in terms of wanting to see the evidence of how it is working. So I'm confident that in the future that they would reauthorize the position, just as they would with the jail alternative coordinator, if that was an ongoing position. So I think that they just made it clear that it's not, it's neither into perpetuity, without any review, but neither is it just a one-time thing that will run out and never be reauthorized again. So bottom line is, I think that they're willing to fund it potentially in the future, but their motion was for this fiscal year rather than saying longer.
Then my question is, what would happen to the employee in his position if Rolling Hills decided they weren't going to fund it in the future?
Yeah, so I think then we'd have to consider, I mean, we're still paying the individual salary. It'd just be whether or not we wanted to pick up the difference or not, or at that point.
And the individual that I'm promoting is one step away from being the highest paid correctional officer. So this number next year is actually going to be smaller as he's classified as a senior jailer now. He'll become a master jailer if he stays at a correctional officer. So this number is going to go down to about $8,000 is what the difference between what he makes now and what he would make as a sergeant. And I will tell you, last week, for the first time in a year and a half, I was fully staffed for 3 hours. I made it 3 hours before somebody gave me a resignation because they had a cop job somewhere else. So what I'm saying there is my line item for my wages, it takes 6 to 8 weeks to hire somebody so that's 6 to 8 weeks that money's not being spent. So the money's there. I mean, it's sitting there waiting to be spent.
Well, I'll go ahead and move this.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Potabom. Any other questions? I know we've discussed it a few months back. All right. Seeing no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. 4:37, so we got a little bit more time before set time. Do we want to just jump to item 10, Dennis? Don, would you like to come on up? We've got a regional hazard mitigation plan update, notice of open period of public comment.
Good afternoon. Primary purpose for being here today is to put on record the open period for public comment, which will begin October 28th through November 27th. We're looking for additional input on local concerns for hazard mitigation actions that may be considered by the county and each jurisdiction, and also comment on profiles as they're completed for each community. The plan, a little background, has Woodbury, Ida, Cherokee, Plymouth, and Monona counties. It's a regional plan replacing the 2014 Woodbury multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. So from that 700-page document for one county, we're going to 5 counties. So that is a FEMA and Homeland Security initiative, and we're just moving forward best we can on that. Do any of you have questions on the plan itself or the progress? Okay, that's all I need from you today.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the information. Go on to 11A, Community and Economic Development, approval to participate in the Community Partnership and Engagement Program for the 2020 census.
Mr. Chair, just on that last thing, are we taking action to set those, or is that something that'll happen in the future?
Don, was that?
I was just wondering, you're looking for us to pronounce specified dates for the opening and closing of the public comment period?
My stating that, if that's reflected in the minutes, that serves that purpose. Is that all you need?
Good evening, Supervisors. David Gleiser, Director of Community Economic Development. This item is just going to give you a real brief presentation on the 2020 Census Community Partnership and Engagement Program. Iowa belongs to the Chicago region for the 2020 census. Other states included in this region are Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, and Wisconsin. As I'm sure you all know, the census is a constitutional mandate. Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution requires a head count every 10 years of everyone residing in the United States. As you know, state and federal funding are allocated to communities, and decisions are made on matters of national and local importance based in part on census data. That being said, it's very important for us to participate. I've been in contact with our regional census outreach director, We've put together some ideas and a framework and a strategy of, for engagement for our hard account populations in Woodbury County. The states across the country are forming complete count commissions at the state level, and then local jurisdictions are breaking out and forming complete count committees. Complete count committees are basically local groups of stakeholders within the community that have influence and connections and relationships within the community, and they sort of serve as a liaison between the local government and the census. We will collaborate with our regional director and support census hiring, as well as enumerating and canvassing in the field. We are currently participating in the census new construction program, where we're basically using our building permit data and incorporating that into a GIS platform with census, which helps basically get all the addresses that for new construction since the census has started and millings have went out. So that being said, we're the state of Iowa. Our particular region is a little bit behind in terms of getting set up and forming this collaborative. You know, that's no fault to the counties. It's basically the census has been a little behind in getting staffing levels up to par. But we're at a level where we want to get, get going on this. Asking the board tonight to appoint myself as the county's liaison to the census. I've drafted a letter on behalf of the board that I'm asking the chairman to sign and asking the board's approval for him to sign it, which states our commitment to the census. And then the board, I'm asking to pass a resolution to sort of formalize that commitment as well.
Go ahead.
So what are some of the obligations that'll be either on you or on your staff or on the county in terms of actual work?
Sure.
Workload and how that'll play out?
Sure. That's a good question. So what we envision is basically a lot of sort of, we're going to try to build this into a lot of the interactions that we have with our city clerks and our other city councils throughout rural Woodbury County. We're going to primarily be trying to form a steering committee comprised of representatives from the rural community, representatives from local government, representatives from our local media. It will sort of be more of a planning effort. I don't envision this taking up a big chunk of our department's time. I more or less see this something that will be put on my plate, and I'll just go about scheduling it as I do anything else, any other initiative, local initiatives that we're involved in.
And I do know that Simcoe is another organization that's planning to be a participant in the community partnership and engagement side of things. So
really what we're trying to do, Supervisor Taylor, is help unlock doors into the communities for the census staff to go in and be able to do their work. And so I guess, having discussion, some ideas that we've discussed is, trying to get internet access, maybe at like the courthouse or obviously our public libraries, trying to get, this is the first year that the census is going to allow people to participate online. And so there's a big push to get online records completed. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I'm wondering, as they say, they want to marshal resources in order to be able to make this happen. If, I can appreciate that the federal government's wanting to implement this, but I just wonder our role as a county in helping them to do that.
If the board would like, I can give periodic updates and let you know. If the board would like to appoint a liaison to our complete count committee or serve as chair of that committee, that's something that's totally possible.
who likes counting the most?
And then is there any implications or repercussions for not complying with this?
No, I mean, basically, American Community Service survey data.
David, I might have to interrupt you here. We got 4:45, we got to our set time. All right, back to 9A, public hearing on proposed urban renewal plan amendment. So we are now in a public hearing.
The public hearing was published October 12th, so we meet our deadline, or publication notices requirements, so it's open for discussion now until you close the hearing.
Anything to be said? Come on up, state your name, address.
Thank you very much, Board of Supervisors. My name is Jeff Wright, 1105 Sheridan Court, Sergeant Bluff, Iowa. I'm here, practice law here in Sioux City at the Heidman Law Firm. I'm here as a member of the Sergeant Bluff-Luton Community School District School Board. Today with me is Patterson School District's business manager and president of our school board, Amy Crow. We do have some concerns. Those concerns regarding the county's plan were expressed well in Dr. Rod Earlywine, our school superintendent's letter to the Board of Supervisors on October 10th. And so I won't spend a bunch of time reiterating what he said, but I will state just a couple of things that from the Sergeant Bluff School Board's perspective and trying to be conscientious for the taxpayers, for the Sergeant Bluff-Luton Community School District property owners in our school district. As we understand, what the county's contemplating is county-wide road improvements spread across the entire county as opposed to just within the TIF district, and using funds that would otherwise be funds that would be Sergeant Bluff-Luton Community School District funds, which would give our taxpayers an anticipated tax break that they've been expecting and anticipating for some period of time. The view of the school board of Sergeant Bluff-Luton is that equity would suggest that if we're going to do roads for the whole county ought to pay for it. It ought not to be just the taxpayers of the Sergeant Bluff Community, Sergeant Bluff-Luton Community School District. The taxpayers, as I mentioned, have been expecting a reduction in their property taxes, and the school district fears and believes that the plan that's under proposal will result in the school district's taxpayers not getting the tax reduction expected, which in effect causes their taxes to remain inflated unnecessarily and inconsistent with what's happening with the rest of the taxpayers within the county. And so that's our concern. We believe the equities suggest that this should not be passed, and if you want to call it pain to be spread for repairing 30 years worth of roads, the pain ought to be spread across the county and not be borne by just the taxpayers of the Sergeant Bluff-Luton Community School District. Thank you for your time.
Any other discussion?
We did respond to their letter through David Leiser. We did talk to our bond attorney.
Are you on the microphone?
We did talk to our bond attorney, and he read the letter. He thought it was a well-written letter. It has to be remembered that when TIF is released, 45% of the revenue does go to Sergeant Bluff School District, 44% goes to our county-wide levies and rural basic. So we are spreading kind of equally across the board. We are still splitting a 50-50 policy on the TIF revenue that's outside the CF plan itself. And the CF plan itself was never guaranteed to be released. If we have projects come up in the near future or possibly future down the road, there may be a time we don't release any TIF to do a major project. That's the thing with TIF. It happens in Sioux City all the time. It could happen in Woodbury County. But this plan here does help everybody in the county, including the school district of the roads. Their buses do go over these roads. These roads are terrible. So we did respond to it. We did send it to Sergeant Bluff-Luton School District, and that's where we're at.
On that map, how much mileage, or maybe this is for Mark to answer, how much mileage is in the SBL school district?
We didn't check that number specifically. It's probably not more than 10%.
All right, any other questions, discussion on the item?
I guess I would add
Come on up.
something to the discussion. You know, a portion of this money is CF Industries and other improvements that have been done down in that area. Mid-American's coming on. AGP also had some investment in that area. The county spent $2.2 million in improving and maintaining roads during that period, where this was, the county invested in assisting these industries in growing and expanding down in that area. Part of this money will be kind of paying that investment back that was deducted from the rest of the county rural area during the time of that construction. So we paid forward. Now, a part of this is it's going to be helping pay back and make improvements to the general county road system.
It's kind of a wash in the end. I know it's not always fair, but you look at 2 million and 45% of 10 million. And any other discussion?
Dennis, can you speak a little bit to the county's intended use of the 50% goes to property tax relief, what the options are in terms of lowering rural levy versus the general, and how that, once that's released, if half of that goes to release versus all of it goes to TIF, how that plays out? Potentially, that was a question that was raised by the superintendent.
Okay, on the TIF side of it, the policy is, and it's a policy, that we do split 50-50 on the increment that is released. This year, we did release 30 million. There was a total of 61 million in the rural Woodbury County area. So we did release 50%. The new money coming on is not in that 50% right now. That's excluded out because money's never been dished out before. So we use that money there. Then the money is generated by the rest of the TIF area. We split that 50-50. Now, when you get to 2024, we won't need all the new revenue coming on by the CF plant. In the schedule, I showed that we start releasing 900,000 or 500,000. Next year goes to $1 million, then it keeps going up. And we have two obligations now. One's 200,000 a year. We made one payment. We have 3 more of those to go. And then we have the Dogwood Trail AGP, of which we have received no money from Sergeant Bluff. So in that case, back to the school district, we've got to make that up through all the taxing bodies to pay for that money that they aren't paying.
So in one instance, in terms of Sergeant Bluff, we use significant TIF money in that Dogwood Trail investment.
$800,000.
That currently hasn't generated or garnered new development.
We have now made out of 5 payments, there will be 4 that they have now made. Now, they do have 20 years to make that payment. If they don't pay in 20, it's forgiven. But right now, there's no activity or anything going down there, so we don't anticipate any payments, which we have to make up. So we take it from the other TIF release we would have done from the other taxing bodies.
That's an instance in which that tax increment, money that would essentially have gone to the school district, was held up for a project that was within Sergeant Bluff.
Yes.
That benefited Sergeant
It'd be
Bluff. Is that correct?
45% of that. Now, this year is 176,000. If they don't make a payment, it keeps rolling forward. So this year is 96 plus 176,000. So that 120,000 they lost because we haven't got a payment.
And they have 20 years, and if they don't make a payment, it's forgiven?
Yes.
Wish my mortgage was that way.
Anybody else? Come on up, sir. Jeff, you lost weight, by the way.
I appreciate you noticing. Wasting away. No. Couple of things. You folks have made the comment that it sort of is a wash, and it just isn't a wash. The comments that were just made about Dogwood Trail, that's the city of Sergeant Bluff. That isn't Sergeant Bluff Community School District. And I want to make clear that we're not mixing and mashing. That the school district, we're here talking about the school district. The city of Sergeant Bluff and us are not the same thing.
Sure.
And so don't make that mistake and say, oh, you got Dogwood Trail, so quit your complaining, because that ain't right. Absolutely not right. And it's a kind of a myopic look at things, to be perfectly honest with you. And to say, oh, it's a wash, Sergeant Bluff's kind of gotten this and they've kind of gotten that. with all due respect to everybody here, and I understand what you're trying to do, and you got a whole county to take care of. Again, our view is the whole county ought to take care of it, and taxpayers for the Sergeant Bluff Luton Community School District should not be asked to foot this bill, and that's what this is asking to happen, in our view. Thank you.
Sure. And not every single fund that's going to all the county roads is coming from TIF. I mean, there are other sources that go into that.
Without question, and we all understand that with certainty. Our focus is on the TIF.
What is, that's right, okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? All right, well, in that case, I will move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to item B, approval of resolution 2019 urban renewal plan amendment for the Woodbury County urban renewal area. Well, I will go ahead and move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Potabom. Any discussion?
In the plan, it isn't stated in here, but the way we plan to do this, because of bank qualified loans, we can do $10 million per calendar year. So this year we do have approximately $9 million left. So make this work for banks that instead of $10 million, we're doing $7 million this calendar year. We'll start the process as soon as possible. And then after the first year, we'll take $3 million more of the next year's $10 million, which leaves $7 million for bank qualified for any other organization to come forward, or our CIP loans. So we're doing $7 million this calendar year, $3 million next year. Treasurer is getting interest rates right as I speak. He's got to have them by Monday, then we'll start the process. And the money will be set in a separate fund, just like we did with the grid project. Somebody asked me, how you can keep track of this to make sure it is all for gravel? Well, that's simple. We put it in a separate fund, and we'll keep track of it, and Mark will too. Handle just like the bridge fund.
And Mark, it was a 5-year span that it was going to be put out?
That we were working on the project, yes, 5 years.
Did you want to speak to the efficiencies of the bulk purchase and crushing in any way, shape, or form, or is that kind of, we all get that? All right.
Even though I'm still pushing for 3 years, I know you're saying 5.
Well, maybe if we get some good rental rates on some belly dumps, it can go a little faster. I don't know. You still need time for it to compact, I guess, so.
It takes time and we're covering a lot of ground.
Go ahead.
I just comment, I understand the concerns of Sergeant Bluff and feel like the board is between a rock and a hard place in terms of either keeping the status quo where we're at right now, which is untenable, I think, given 30 years of what we're trying to make up for, but at the same time then having to go out and borrow with interest for all taxpayers. So that's a wrestling match. I don't want it to be seen seemingly that we're overly dismissive of those concerns. I feel like we're kind of boxed in some ways, and so my only bringing up of the Dogwood Trail was in relation to a project that I know didn't benefit the school district, and I understand that those two separate entities, but we're trying to wrestle. It's not an ideal situation, so.
We appreciate that completely. Governing requires choices. You think the option you do have is you can spread the wealth across the county instead of picking on some taxpayers. That's where we think you have the option if you say you don't have. There's a county, whole county of taxpayers to bear this burden that's built over 30 years rather than just ours.
And taxing them for that rather than using taxes that aren't currently there.
Correct.
Which is another one of our wrestling matches.
Understand. Thank you for hearing our concerns.
Any other questions?
I guess maybe I need some clarification because Sergeant Bluff and Sioux City offers tax abatements for new construction.
I don't know about Sergeant Bluff. I know Sioux City
The
does.
city of Sergeant Bluff,
So,
not the school district.
but does that affect money coming in for the school district then?
Only the city is.
It doesn't? Okay.
It was only the property taxes applicable to the city of Sergeant Bluff. Those taxpayers still paid their tax for the school district, their assessment for the school district, regardless of that. It benefits, frankly, benefits the school district in that lots of people came and built houses in Sergeant Bluff and started immediately paying school district taxes, but they were not paying city of Sergeant Bluff taxes.
So there's,
They can't abate on your behalf, they can only
Correct.
abate on.
right,
Correct.
okay.
Anything else? Okay. Well, seeing nothing, no more concerns. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Sorry again, but I understand your concerns as well. Everyone's looking out for the board they oversee. Item C, thank you. Approval of the urban renewal agreement for all cities in Woodbury County and authorize chairman to sign.
Okay, by urban rule law, if we use TIF within 2 miles of the city limits, we do have to ask their permission to spend that money within or 2 miles. I have notices made up that David will send out to all the city clerks. If their request we come out, we'll go out and explain it, but what this will allow us to do is go right up to the city limits of every town to do the gravel roads. If they don't want us to do it, we'll stop 2 miles out, and then they'll have their road, and we'll have our road refurbished. I do not know how anybody.
Like I say, I bet you none say no.
Because they'd always annex the road after we get done, they could annex in with a good road, so beyond me why anybody object, but you gotta give them the opportunity, and we'll have those things sent out as soon as you approve it.
I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Back to 11A there. Take right back off where you left off there. Do you remember?
Yeah, we were just getting ready to move A.
You were saying something. You got to finish it now. We all remember, but you.
As I was saying,
Okay.
but I don't envision this being a too time cumbersome chore for myself or for the county. And I do believe that it is very important that we be involved in matters related to making sure that we get the most accurate count for our county residents as possible, to ensure that we get the funding and, decision-making criteria that are made through census data, so.
Well, I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any other discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so it passes 4-1. Item 11B, approval to appoint the Community and Economic Development Director as county liaison for the 2020 census. I will move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Potabom. Any discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
So that passes 4-1. Item C, approval of a resolution to support an accurate 2020 census. You want me to read it first?
Please.
All right. Whereas the U.S. Census Bureau is required by the U.S. Constitution to conduct a complete count of the population, provides historic opportunity to help shape the foundation of our society and play an active role in American democracy. And whereas the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors is committed to ensuring every resident is counted, and whereas federal and state funding is allocated to communities and decisions are made on matters of national and local importance based in part on census data and housing, and whereas census data helps determine how many seats each state will have in the U.S. House of Representatives and are necessary for an accurate and fair redistricting of state legislature legislative seats, county and city councils, and voting districts. And whereas information from the 2020 Census and American Community Survey is vital for economic development and increased employment, and whereas the information collected by the census is confidential and protected by law, and whereas a unified voice from business, government, community-based, and faith-based organizations, educators, media, and others will enable the 2020 census message to reach more of our residents, and whereas the 2020 census count requires extensive work and the Census Bureau requires partners at the state and local level to ensure a complete and accurate count, and whereas Woodbury County is committed to partnering with the U.S. Census Bureau and desires to establish a complete count committee to bring together a cross-section of community members who will utilize their local knowledge and expertise to reach out to all persons at our county. You want to keep going? All right. Yeah, now therefore be resolved, the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors does hereby demonstrate the full support of the 2020 census and will, one, support the goals of the 2020 census and disseminate 2020 census information, encourage all county residents to participate in events and initiatives that will raise the overall awareness of the 2020 census and increase participation. 3, provide complete count committee members and census advocates to speak to county and community organizations. 4, support census takers as they help our county complete an accurate count. And 5, strive to achieve a complete and accurate count of all persons within our county. Was this like a cut and paste from the Census Bureau? They just email it to you? Pretty much.
A little bit.
A little bit, okay.
I'll move it.
I'll second. Motion by Potabom, second by Raddick. Any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-1. Item D, authorize chairman to sign 2020 Census Community Partnership and Engagement Program letter. I will move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Potabom. Doesn't say we're giving them any money, right? All right. Well, it's kind of like we give them a time at the meeting probably to speak up about the census, and then some time at meetings for you. So I'll move it. Or we already had that, sorry. Any other discussion, sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to secondary roads. There you go, David. 12A, consider approval of resolution to set load limits on county bridges. The biannual or annual load limit setting.
Well, it's annually, we have about half of our bridges that are inspected. Some bridges are inspected every year because they're starting to decline in condition. In this case, we have 8 bridges where load restrictions are being reduced from where they had been prior. 2 bridges were recommended for closure due to major structural component failures. That would be H203, which is on 200th Street, and H266, which is on Hancock Avenue. Both of these bridges are in our 2020 construction program. We just couldn't keep them another 6 months to reach the date where the projects will be let for construction.
Those 2 bridges already had pretty significant weight limits on them anyway, right?
Yes, they did. They were both 3-ton bridges to begin with, and they're old timber substructures. They're both in very poor condition. The H266 bridge was once again damaged this year by flooding events that occurred back in March. H203 was also a FEMA site. There was bank erosion there. It didn't contribute to the current condition of the bridge, but it did take a beating during the flood. We are in the process of trying to accelerate the letting dates for these projects. They had initially been anticipated to be June 2020 lettings. We're going to see if we can move that up by a couple of months.
I will move approval of the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Item B, award quote for one 19,500-pound GVW cab chassis truck to Jensen Ford for $47,808.
I need to hold off on that one with some explanation. It's a really quick turnaround between getting the bids on Tuesday night and putting the agenda to the board by Thursday morning. And I had not gotten full information back from the dealer on whether all of the required equipment was included on the truck. They did contact me today. They had missed some vital components on that truck, and they offered a price. We have not circulated the bid tabs, so unless they watched the board meeting, they would not have known what their competitors had bid to get all of the equipment in, which included a rear backup camera, the heavier suspension in the rear, 110 outlets in the cab for running the sign computer, and some other items that had not been included as part of the power takeoff specification. Their price is $49,215 for those additional items. You can see from the bid tabs that Barry Ford was second low at $51,421. I guess it would be up to the board whether you would allow Jensen to alter their quote. Otherwise, we would have to go to the second low that was compliant with the bid on the day we opened.
Have the others all included the equipment?
Jensen Ford and Cornhusker International with a couple of minor non-compliant, Cornhusker International and Barry Ford had a couple of minor non-compliances. Shift on the fly, four-wheel drive was not available in either one and has manual locking hubs instead of automatic locking hubs.
So Mark, was your request specified when you asked for the bids?
They were.
So it's my understanding that in public bidding, if their price is not what you specified, then it's rejected. And that would be not a very good situation because they are the low, but they would either have to honor the $47,808 or we would have to go to the next bid.
And they can't honor the $47,808. They're requesting $49,215 to fully equip it.
Am I? Okay.
And the option is to go with the second low bid.
Right. Or reject all and bid it out 3-6 months from now.
Numbers are on the table. We can't wait 6 months.
Sure.
Our current sign truck is it's already run 2+ years past its prime. We'd rather not have another major component failure before we get it replaced. I would go to the second low bid before I would reject all bids in this case. I don't think we're going to see better numbers coming back later other than Jensen would throw this same number at us in 2 to 3 weeks, whatever it takes to get there. I don't know whether Barry would alter his number or not. I would rather go the second low bid and award it than reject all at this point in time. We're already looking at 90 to 120 days out on the truck chassis.
This is bid out of your road use funds, correct?
It's based out of the secondary road funds, so that's a combination of income that we receive, partial property, part road use tax funds, part-time 21 funds. We have a lot of other miscellaneous income that comes in there for that. But yes, this is basically the local secondary road fund under the management of the county engineer and board of supervisors.
Would you be happy with the second low bid vehicle?
I'd rather pay $49, but if, we do need the truck. And again, I don't know that we're going to see once the numbers are on the table, I wouldn't see in this model year that we'd see significant shift in them. You could see your low bid go up and get closer to that 51 number. Nobody likes to leave $2,000 on the table when they're bidding. To me, the best option at this point is to reject the first bid as non-compliant with specification and award the second. Knowing what I know today, I think that's the way you have to go.
I mean,
The
that's,
county attorney has no.
Because I have a problem letting them change their bid on stuff that was specified to be bid on.
I would move to take the second low bid.
I'd second
was that Barry?
Yes,
51,000?
Berry Motors at $51,421.
I hate to spend $2,000 extra, but I think it's the way it's kind of clearly stated in the law.
It's putting everybody on the same footing. For me, it's the next best alternative.
All right, so
They did offer it, but yeah, again, they could not hold their price for the options that we needed.
it's motion by DeWitt, second by Potabom. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Item C, award the pickup truck quote for the 3/4 ton four-wheel drive pickup truck to Berry Motors for $29,068.
Again, here, the two-wheel drive was specified, four-wheel drive options were offered. We're looking at $2,573 to go to the four-wheel drive option. That comes pretty close to money. We'd get a good portion of that.
Probably
back
get
in
at least
trade.
$1,000 back in
We'd have
trade.
a more functional truck for the unit as well. So I had never anticipated they come in quite that close for four-wheel drive versus two-wheel drive. But to me, that would be a worthwhile option to exercise. That's why I recommended the four-wheel drive option on the Ford F-250 from Berry Motors.
I would move that.
Second. All right, any discussion on that? What was the, because that was an alternate you allowed there, right, as far as
Yes.
four-wheel?
Yes,
And that was the lowest of the four-wheel?
that was the lowest of the four-wheel. When we added the $2,200 to Kneffler, they came at $29,190. Berry Motors came in at $29,068. And Berry was also low on the 3/4 ton. I mean, they were low either way.
And Barry was, it's Danbury, right?
Danbury, Iowa, yes.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, passes 5-0. Moving on to item D, award the pickup truck quote for the 3/4 ton extended cab pickup truck to Kneffler Chevrolet for $30,998.
Here we had a clear non-compliance and specification as well. Jensen Ford bid the F-250 with the cab. It has the suicide doors to access the rear passenger area. That doesn't work very well for a foreman when he's got to throw an extra guy in the cab on those occasions. So we had specified passenger style doors, which the Kneffler Chevy 2500 did comply with.
I'd move the award.
I'll second. Motion by DeWitt, second by Radig. Any other discussion? But there were 3 bids on that, were there not?
On the 3/4, no, there were only 2.
Oh, there were only the 2.
Jensen and Kneffler were the only 2 that bid. Barry did not submit a bid, and I'm guessing it was because he knew his Ford F-250 did not meet specification.
Okay.
We had gone past him on a prior bid, probably 3 years ago on a similar truck for a foreman, where he supplied one with the doors that opened the other pattern, the Ford pattern.
Okay.
Both Chevy and Dodge have extended cab trucks with passenger style doors. Woodhouse in this case chose not to bid. We don't know why. Jensen could have bid Dodge. They also have a Dodge dealership within their line, but they chose to bid the Ford F-250.
Okay. All right, we had motion by DeWitt, second by Radig. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Item E, award the quote for one four-wheel drive tractor to S&S Equipment of Lawton, Iowa for $66,500.
This was the bid that made the four-wheel drive option possible because they came in $14,000 under our estimates. So, that was a nice savings on the tractor. I recommend award to S&S.
I'll move the award to S&S.
I'll second. Motion by DeWitt, second by Raddick. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. If you can hang around for
Sure. I had
board
plans.
citizen concern. Thank you.
Mark, before you sit down, is there any reason why Jensen is not coming in according to specifications on the bid? Did you ask them, are they doing anything wrong as far as the county and putting that bid out at all?
The salesman made a mistake without going into detail on what was going on within Jensen's organization at this point in time. I could tell you privately, I don't want to put out in a public meeting.
That's fine. Just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
what the county.
they made a mistake. He just flat missed it. I spoke with the sales manager today, and there was a reason for it. I'll let you know after the meeting.
That's fine. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 13 from Board Administration. A, accept D.A. Davidson as the financial advisor for the Potential Justice Center project as recommended by Larry Goldberg, architect, Dennis Butler, finance director, and Kenny Schmitz, building superintendent. You want it?
We did conduct the interviews last week with two companies, Hilltop and D.A. Davidson. The interviews took about 2 hours, 2.5 hours on each one of them. Rocky did sit down the first one with D.A. Davidson. And we did go through them, compared things back and forth between Kenny and I and Larry, and we did come up with a recommendation of D.A. Davidson as our financial advisor for the possibly alone Justice Center. And I have 9 reasons, if you'd like to hear them, why we did select D.A. Davidson.
Oh, this will go over why we did.
Okay.
Public
I did
record.
pass out what they submitted on their slideshow here. So on the first side, and you can assist too if you want to, Kenny, on this.
You can just read down the list.
Okay, the number 1, which is on page 10 of the forms I sent out to you. D.A. Davidson has participated in 6 Iowa detention projects in Iowa, the latest being a $30 million project in Warren County, Iowa. Hilltop has done none in Iowa. Number 2, which is on page 16 and 17, D.A. Davidson, I'll just call him D.A. for short, included a schedule of timing issues, steps, and sequence to closing to reach a proposed bond election date of March 3rd, 2020. Hilltop did not include a calendar of dates. The March 3rd, 2020 date is being suggested as Iowa law sets only March 3rd or the second Tuesday in September for even-numbered years. And if you wait till September, March 3rd is a good date. If you wait till September, we're adding probably 4 to 5% more onto the cost of the project. So we're trying to get this forward, give us 4 months to get there. Reason number 3 is on page 13. D.A. Davidson is familiar with a potential multi-jurisdictional projects in Iowa, whereas Hilltop has not done a joint project in Iowa. There are different laws in Iowa that every state has different laws, but we wanted somebody who's very familiar in case it does turn into a joint project. Item number 4 on page 27. Both firms will assist in getting bond ratings from S&P and/or Moody's. DA did a sample rating from available county data information to possibly result in a bond rating of AA+, which is the second highest rating you can get.
It's like my grades in school.
Yeah, right. Which would result in a possible interest rate from 2.5% to 3%, which is a very good rate. Larry's familiar with rates all over the country. He says this would be a great rate if we get down that far, because I think his estimates were 3 to 3.5 on his items, which would be very favorable to the county, 2.5% to 3%. Written policies and procedures can impact interest rates, of which Woodbury County has in place. Hilltop did not provide a projected bond rating. Item number 5, 31 to 34 pages. DA provide a sample campaign committee organizational chart that could prove was very helpful proceeding with the bond election. Hilltop did not provide this. Item number 6, page 18. After closing of the bond issuance, there are post-closing services and filings that are required by different agencies. DA can provide that on a yearly fee of $1,000, whereas Hilltop's fee is $2,000 per year. These services and filings will continue for the length of the bond issue, which is probably 20 years. It will be highly recommended that the county retain the service of the completion of the bond sale. And 18 does describe what issues have to be filed at various federal agencies. Item 7 on page 10, DA has worked with the law firm of Allers Cooney that is being recommended by the committee to engage as the county's bond counsel. Hilltop is not engaged with this law firm in Iowa, seeming they haven't done any projects in Iowa. Number 8 is on the first page, and then page 36, 37. DA Davidson has his office in Des Moines, Iowa. Hilltop has no offices in Iowa. There, it's accessibility. If we need help, they can be here in 2.5, 3 hours, where St. Louis is a lot further away. But they're familiar with all of our Iowa laws. And page 19, item number 9, DA Davidson's maximum cost would be $35,000. Hilltop's maximum cost is $50,000. Those are 9 reasons to approve DA Davidson as our financial advisor. Hilltop is an excellent company, advisor firm. Hitherto we're good. We narrowed down to Hilltop and DA Davidson. The DA coming on top from the 3 of our perspectives and through the interviews.
So did we have a motion second on that already? I didn't write one down, so I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Young. Any other discussion?
Other than I was in that meeting, it just seemed like they answered every single question we had. They sounded extremely professional without, sounding polished or forced. It was, if you had a question, they answered it. I was very reassured with I forget how they put it, that tiny insurance policy afterwards of $1,000 a year that to kind of clean up any mess or those kind of things. It just seemed, and not saying I did not sit on the second meeting, but these guys I was impressed. With all the questions that they received, there was no hesitation. They just came out and answered everything with knowledge.
Well, it's good that they knew, too, that for 20 years, if you had an association or a joint venture, that you would need some kind of follow-up as well, so.
Yeah, both groups were very good. Another reason we chose D.A. Davidson, or another one of our choices, it's kind of scoped out in the 9 that Dennis laid out. They were very polished, but they also understood the down-home aspect of Sioux City, Iowa, where I'm not sure Hilltop, while very professional, may have worked on larger scale communities, and maybe just didn't make quite the better connection that D.A. Davidson did. And again, Larry and I and Dennis sat down and we tried to outline each aspect or each difference of the 2 final companies that we could, and that's how we came up with the 9. And I think they're a very good company.
And the other thought here is, and this is a good thought, unless the bond issue would pass when we have it up, they do not get paid. They get paid after the closing, the bond issue, and the closing of the bond sales. Then they get paid. So there is a little desire by them to make sure they help as much as they can.
Well, and obviously, getting a better percentage rate changes the worst-case scenario quite dramatically, because my worst-case scenario numbers I ran at 3.5%. And if we could get a 2.5% on a number like 50 million, that's a big number.
When you calculate it out over 20 years, it's big.
Well, any other discussion on the selection? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? 5-0. Item B, authorize chair to sign contract with D.A. Davidson after review by board's legal counsel. Did you guys have a chance to review that?
I believe Joshua.
Yeah, he has it, he is reviewing it, he hasn't seen any problems, but he still wants to review it, so what we're asking to speed this up, because every day is gonna be vital now till that date of March 3rd, that we use their availability. So we're asking if the board chair could sign it after Joshua has a chance to review it.
I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Item C, approval engagement and agreement with Allers and Cooney attorneys regarding potential justice center. I will move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any other discussion on this?
Again, the county attorney Joshua has reviewed this. He had one question, that was a $7,500 minimum fee, but Allers did come back and explain why they did that, because it's kind of a three-phase deal. You have a before you decide joint city-county, if that doesn't work out. And if we do go joint city-county, the commission will be the one they have to contract with, Allers' firm. If that doesn't develop, then they have to contract with us because it will be sole ownership. So the fee, and if they only work, say, 5 hours or 10 hours, the fee will be reduced. But Allers is a very reputable firm, and develop a trust. And they're one of the two that we could look at. We picked Allers, we used Jocelyn for our other tax increment stuff. And they have worked with Allers before. And they've done joint projects. So that's important there. If we do get to joint, there's a lot of different laws involved here.
All right, any other questions? And they've worked on those joint Iowa projects
Yes.
before, especially being an Iowa firm.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. D, approval of chairman to sign agreement, I'm guessing with Allers and Cooney.
Yes.
All right, I'll move that.
Second.
All right, motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, passes 5-0.
All these costs between the FA and the attorneys will be recoverable through our bond issue.
All right. And then moving on to item 14, report on committee meetings. Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to put the FY 2019 annual report from Rolling Hills for next week. It's very extensive. I won't go over all of it or even a portion of it, but I think it gives a very good snapshot of some of the services. So I'll put that in the packet for next week, and just wanted to give you an update on a couple of things. Obviously, we took care of the sergeant's position, but there's a children's mental health and mobile crisis are the two areas that we're really looking at right now. So we've had 2 task force meetings in the works. Over 40 people were in attendance, including representatives from Sioux Rivers. So many, so that the task forces have become 2 work groups. There's a governance board and an advisory board. What we are seeing is that the state is mandating that the governance board be enmeshed with the children's board. So we'll actually add the 8 of us. We'll have 3 additional bodies. One will be a parent of a child receiving services, a family member of an adult receiving services, and another 3rd member. So we'll actually become an 11-member board, which will be interesting. And the legislation also requires a children's coordinator. So we'll have to determine that as well. So that's on the children's side. On the mobile crisis, and this is very important, I think, to understand for our community, there will be an 800 number that law enforcement utilizes. And based on where the request is coming from, they've actually taken the 8 counties and they've divided through Cherokee who will go where, whether that's to Sac or to Woodbury. And so they have that geographically delineated. And their goal is to be within 60 minutes of a call, and they'll only go to a secure location, meaning that they're not going out to some place in the country for which law enforcement hasn't arrived yet. And so the MCOs are reimbursing at about $55 an hour, which is kind of a pittance in comparison to what it costs. But the hope is by deflecting from the hospital and actually utilizing to a greater degree the crisis home, that those staff that are being paid right now, we're really utilizing those dollars and getting them inside our facility, which is a savings long term. So that's kind of an aerial overview, but other amount for the portion that we also are contributing to for mental health, so. in our jail. That's it.
Matthew? Marty? Rocky? All right, I just wanted to bring up the conservation picnic. It was a fun event. Marty and I were both there, and quite a bit of staff, and it was a good event. Citizen concerns, I know there's supposed to be an asterisk on here, and I forgot to get that to Karen or say that to her, but there was the rural water west, what's that?
It's on number 60.
Is it on there? Oh, okay. Well, then, any citizen concerns not on the agenda? He must have got it to you. Is it on there? Oh, it's on the, okay. I thought I did. Gosh, I looked at the page and I'm like, where is it? No citizen concerns. Moving on to board concerns, and then we'll know. Now we'll take that. You got a call. And again, as a board, you know, it's something we've been advised we're not obligated to pay, but if you'd like to come up and, you know, make a case on that again there.
In case you need to review what we presented before, it's been long.
We'll share.
My name's Monty McCoy. I live at 48 Deer Run Trail, Climbing Hill, in the heart of Woodbury County. We have a water system that was installed by the Iowa DNR in conjunction with underground storage and Northwestern Iowa Environmental. That water system, there were two of them installed, Climbing Hill East and Climbing Hill West. I'm here because I'm president of the West Association. We have 8 residences on that well, and we didn't have any say-so about how it was installed, where things were located, the sizing, or anything else. I do know that we waited for many, many years. My parents have been gone for 25 years, and they were waiting when they died for a resolution. I came up here to the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors many years ago. None of you were on the board at that time, and requested investigation into rural water. We were looking for any kind of solution, and what we were told was there was not money for that, or money to help us. So the Iowa DNR and the underground storage people with Northwestern Environmental designed and installed this well system, and then they turned it over to us for maintenance. We have maintained it for about 16 or 17 years. We pay fees into an account so that if we need to replace our pump, we'll have the money to do that. When we started, our goal was $6,000 because at that time that's what it was going to cost to replace the pump. Since then, it's doubled, and we recently reached that milestone. And we keep the fees low because we have some elderly people that have been on the well. Some of them have passed on and moved. We have some young couples with young families that are on the well. This situation here, you can see from the pictures, it's right smack dab in front of the county shed, which is right across from my house. And it's been a concern of mine. I am a plumber, a licensed plumber, and that manhole lid that's over the blow-off has been settling. And when we finally fixed it this spring, I showed you pictures the last time I was here that there was rust on the PVC pipe that was stubbed up. And what would happen with that, the main is ductile iron, but the blow-off valve is PVC, and it's 6 feet in the ground. So the blow-off is PVC, there's an elbow there, an adapter, an elbow, and then it comes up, and then we have a valve on the main that we blow it off with. And my concern was with the settling of that manhole cover, that it was going to put pressure on the PVC 6 feet in the ground and snap it off. And at that time, we'd have to dig a rather large hole and do a rather large excavation and a large patch to fix it. We did this work this past spring. You can see the date on the invoices in May. Well over a year before that, I had contacted the foreman of the 5th District, I think it's the 5th District that's still out of Horning, and asked if someone would look at it. I was thinking perhaps the county would go ahead and use their own resources to fix it, because the damage, it's obvious that it's coming from the road grader that's parked in the shed there. There is another manhole right up the street in front of the bank. I was going to bring pictures of that, but it doesn't have near the wear and tear on it that this one does. I think there's one crack in the concrete up there. So, you know, it's pretty obvious where the damage came from. And we're asking the county to help us with this.
Okay.
So in terms of the long term, and if the board did determine that this was something that they're not only obligated but shouldn't be take care of, what prevents this situation from happening again?
Well, we tried to put it back a lot better than it was. We used highway grade cement. We put rebar in it. We put gravel in there. We tried to support the manhole as much as we could. And
So with that grader going back and forth over this over a period of, let's say, 4 or 5, 8 years?
well, let's say that happens and it does disintegrate. Well, then I guess that's on us, because we repaired it, but we did give the county the opportunity to address it.
What does a typical resident pay in their fees?
About $20 a month. We've had some widow ladies in the past. We had 3 on the well, 3 out of 8. And, you know, that was even a chore for them. There was a while where we met our milestone goal initially, and we didn't charge anybody. You know, the main thing was to accumulate the fund so that it was there to make any kind of repairs that we had.
You know how many people are on that?
There's eight houses on it right now. And that's all there should be. That's what it was designed for. We did try to get insurance on especially on the well location down on this old school property, because we built a fence around it to keep the kids out. There's electrical there. The east water well doesn't have that. We put up a chain link fence, the gate that's lockable. But we couldn't get an insurance company to write a policy on it. So we basically, the homeowner's liability takes care of anything that would happen down there.
And who constructed this initially? You may have said that, and I apologize.
Well, the Iowa DNR, in conjunction with Underground Storage, designed it, Northwestern Environmental Protection. They may have been involved in the design, but they hired the people to do it, and they supervised the installation. Julie Seaver from Storm Lake was down quite a bit to kind of oversee things and look at things and get a resolution. That was her main concern, was being involved in a resolution.
And again, you know, I had told you on the phone that something like this, whether they designed it to be in the right-of-way, in the street, in the roadway, knowing there was a city maintenance garage there. It should have been designed to handle anything that was going to encounter in that roadway. So, you know, as his vehicles are probably not going to be the ones that'll, you know.
That's a point well taken, but there has been semi-trailers parked in front of the bank on the east.
Sure.
On the East Water Well Association, and it hasn't done any of the damage that we have.
Right. And if it was maybe an inferior batch of concrete or something that, you know, there's a lot of things that can cause it. It can even be frost heave, you know, or something that, but usually this looks more like settlement from water intrusion, but,
Well, once it's cracked, then it's
Yeah.
at the mercy of the,
and then you gotta
the elements.
stick some money in crack sealing every year. And something like this, is your water association capable of repairing pumps or something in this, at this point if there was a break, or did it expend a lot of the reserve you had built up?
Well, we haven't had to do anything, thankfully, with the pump. We would not do it ourselves, no. I may be a plumber, but I'm not a well guy. That's two different things. We work with Siouxland out of Dakota City. They're not the installers, but we've been in contact with him for some other service, and we like what he does. So if we, what's that?
Sorry to interrupt you. What do you have built up right now in terms of funds? If you're
Well, we're probably just under 10,000, probably 9. You know, we were right at 12, and then this came along. The point of this whole thing is, you know, who's going to help us? Climbing Hill's unincorporated. Where do we go? Well, we belong to you, and we're asking for help.
Right. And, you know, I don't know what everyone else pays in water bills here in town too. I know I pay at least 20, you know, that's something to compare from one to the other. You know, the county doesn't assist any of the other municipalities or anybody else in their water endeavors throughout the county as of right now. I mean, we do have the potential through economic development side in the future to seek grants from Department of Agriculture has rural water grants out there, but it's typically for like a water treatment plant or wastewater treatment plant, which we're not even close to ever being in that position at this point.
This is basically a private utility, just like any of the other utilities. The board almost weekly grants permit to occupy the right of way. You have the duty to allow utilities to locate within county rights of way. If we disturb them because of our negligence in digging or doing a project, you know, for instance, if we dug with a backhoe bucket and cut a water line, we are obligated for those repairs in those cases. But as far as the infrastructure that they build and place within the right of way, granted, this was a pretty poor choice of a place to put it if it wasn't designed to be built to handle loads going over the top of it. Our shed was there before this manhole went in.
Right, and he can't speak to the design of it, but you know, that's.
But again, this was not work that was done by the county.
Right.
We take and maintain these. For instance, we had storm and sanitary sewer manholes that were within the city of Salix. That is part of our road construction project. When we redo a road or a street, we are required to take care of the utility in that case. If we damage it through our negligence, we're required to take care of it. But the utilities, and again, this is a private utility just like any other, are required to put their facilities in compliance with reasonable specifications under the permits that the Board of Supervisors places upon them when they approve that permit. Typically, that would be state urban design standards for a manhole or this type of a utility within a street. In these cases, I don't think we want to start a precedent by taking obligation to repair something that should have been able to take on anticipated loads when you put a manhole right in front of a county maintenance shed that's been there that should have been an anticipated load. I didn't dig out the plans on this or the permit. I'm not even sure we've got it at this point in time. If we talking 16 years ago. I was thinking past 10 or 12. That might just be the well that was done in that past 10 to 12 year period. But I don't recommend that the board begin to take care of this. We're not a social program. We're allowing a utility and accommodating a utility within our right of way. That is your sole obligation. It's not your obligation to maintain that utility, since it's not a publicly owned utility in the right of way.
Bonnie, you keep saying that you were hoping the county would help. What were you looking for?
Well, when I damage something, I take responsibility and I pay for it, whether I have the money or not. If I was involved in it, then that's what I'm asking. It's up to you. I really, you're the authority. We belong to Woodbury County. Whatever ruling you make, that's yours. Obviously, if there was help of some sort, anything would be appreciated. I'm just asking, and I think, I suppose I would ask each one of you personally, looking at the pictures, where did the damage come from? Who's responsible for it? Yeah, it could have been placed better. We had no say-so about that. We came to the county. We asked for solutions from the county. I came up there with a whole bunch of ladies. The ladies filled the pew behind me. And we talked to the county about it. Well, Larry said there's just no money. That was pretty much his pat answer. There's no money. And so we went on. And the Iowa, the underground storage they're the ones that ultimately took care of it. So, I know there's a letter of the law, and I know you have to enforce it. And I also know there's a spirit of the law. And so I'm just asking, you say no, I'll walk out of here. I've done all I can do.
Well, personally, I would have no objection to us helping them pay for it. Either part or all, wouldn't matter to me. We just have to find the money, and as long as we make sure we make it clear that we're not accepting that per se it's our fault, but we're going to help out because you are part of us, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, if you know where I should go, the bank, don't say the bank.
I was going to say, don't say anything.
I guess my concern, and I completely empathize, and if there's a partial way to meet halfway, maybe it's worth that, but I do worry about the precedent too, and so just trying to kind of balance both of those out. I'm not sure if the expectation would have been you've got to go around this with the grader and never go over it, as far as causing the damage. I don't know if that's really reasonable. I'm not saying that's what you would expect necessarily, but.
It's kind of hard, especially when there's snow on the
I
ground.
don't know, we have
Right.
a 60-foot wide building, a 66-foot wide.
So that's where I'm saying as far as.
You can't turn.
The damage, so I know this isn't on the agenda, but if I were going to support something, I think doing something halfway, I just have heartburn either way, I guess. I want to try to be helpful, but at the same time, I'm not sure what the county otherwise could have done. So I'd be willing to potentially do something halfway, but I don't know if you'll have the support of the board to do it all.
You have this is almost a rural co-op would be the most
8 people.
likely analogous unit where you have a number of residents who have been together and they're mutually using utility. You have telephone co-ops and electrical co-ops. If they had a manhole out in the road and it was damaged by traffic going over, would you pay for that?
This is not a
This is going to
precedent.
This is not a co-op, though. This was forced on us. We had no control.
But it is your choice of living. It is, you didn't have wells available, I understand that, because there were a number of gasoline stations, as I recall, that had leaking storage tanks that contaminated much of the water in that area. This was not the board's issue either at the time. I was just looking at the most reasonable way to look at this. Again, it's a private utility allowed within our right-of-way. Our department would expect that it would be built to a standard that's going to take traffic. I question whether you want to.
I would just say at this point, since it's not something that we can vote on tonight anyway, and it's up to the board chairman whether he or she wants to put this on the agenda to be voted on, it's something that the board can certainly discuss and bring it back later if they choose or not choose.
I mean, I told you how I felt there, so, it is a board decision at the end of the day. You gotta have 3 people support something, but,
Will you let me know how to proceed or whether I should show up again or not?
sure thing.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Yep. Any other, Jeremy? Want that? Matthew? Marty?
Nope.
Rocky? I did want to bring up 3 different things. Met with Marty and Chris from Sioux City's Economic Development to discuss potential land sites, and Chris had been working on different sites, kind of planning the potential for the jail to be down by the airport, and we got a couple options that are in Dennis's office if you have a question. Kenny, we've got a meeting on Monday with the federal department to discuss needs in the upcoming jail project and potentials there. So I'll be there. Kenny will be there. I guess we could have a second board member if anyone would like to be there. All right, and then meeting with, I'm also planning to meet with different council members to discuss the potential for a joint effort. In the planning by our financial advisor and Allers and Cooney, they were looking at a December timeframe to maybe start a committee or commission, which is a pretty aggressive timeframe. But this would be a decision by the council to be made if they're going to be a participant or not. I plan to meet with them over the next week or 2, hopefully get it all done by this week. Just an FYI. And with that, any questions? We're adjourned.